What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Casters of Horror. I'm Shane, and this week I'm taking a trip, and I do mean a trip, beyond the Black Rainbow. Now, this is a 2010 indie film, right? So it's got some years on it now. Written and directed by Panos Cosmatos. And if that name sounds familiar at all to you, assuming I didn't totally butcher it right there, it might be because of his 2018 film Mandy, which I believe achieved greater, commercial and critical success. I think that Beyond the Black Rainbow might be quite a bit lesser known. It is his first film, and it is definitely an indie film. And something I need to get out of the way right up front is this is without a doubt going to be one of those love it or hate it experiences. I strongly suspect the vast majority of people will fall into the latter category. Right? This is a very unique film. It is a very I don't know how to put it, artistic, I guess. I've heard the word pretentious thrown around. I don't quite agree with that. I just think it's different, right? It's the kind of film I have said in the past that I want to see more of, just not very often, right? It's the kind of film that is really, really out there, and I like out there. I just don't want it to be the main thing I watch, right? This is self described as a psychedelic horror film, and yeah, I think that that likely fits, right? Now, get into the plot a bit. What little I can. I really can't say much. Not just because of plot spoilers or anything, but because there's so little to say that saying too much would be a spoiler, right? But anyway, the film opens on one of those sort of like 60s infomercial, like VHS tape type commercials, right? And it's an advertisement for the what is it? I think it's the Arboria Institute, right? And it's a research facility dedicated to reconciling science and spirituality, and their goal is to allow humans to achieve this sort of new age like transcendence and state of perpetual bliss, right? Very, very cool opening. It's really evokes that sort of like home cassette weird advertisement vibe, right? So very, very interesting opening. Right after that, we do switch over to I believe it's the mid '80s, and the Arboria Institute is now run by a a protege of the original founder, and this is Dr. Nile, and he is for one, I believe he is one of the only speaking parts in this entire film. There are a few lines spoken by other people here and there, but for the most part, it is the actor Michael J. Rogers who is delivering all these lines. And one thing I will say about the delivery is that it's very slow, pointed, methodical, right? This whole film, you could argue, is slow. But anyway, he is now running this institute, and it's implied that there are many subjects in this institute, but his primary subject of interest is a young girl named Elena. And we kind of get the sense that early on, she does not speak. Okay, I don't know if she actually speaks throughout this entire film, although very early on, we get this idea that she has some sort of maybe psychic ability, as she seems to communicate with him telepathically, right? And this Dr. Nile has some sort of device by which he can enhance or suppress these abilities of hers, and it seems like he is trying to get them to come out more, but only when he wants them to. Now, as the film progresses, we find that he has this extremely horrific and creepy obsession with this girl. And he seems to know what may have happened to her parents. He seems to maybe have been involved with them not being around anymore. And so the film basically progresses in such a way that we really just see him having these like one-on-one sessions with her, trying to talk to her and get her to develop these whatever power she may have. But then there's also times when he is just observing her and messing with buttons and dials and basically changing the environment around her to try to get these powers of hers to come out and manipulating her in ways. And we do find out that he is more closely attached to the experiments. Right? He has some personal experience with them. And honestly, there's not a lot more that I can say. We get shots of this institute. It's obviously very big. She's the only subject I think that we see. I think it's possible we do see a couple other subjects. It's not really actually made clear, though. We do see some other entities, at least throughout. This film has some light, I would say, cosmic horror elements to it, but it is definitely very much still the psychedelic horror that it says that it is. Now, again, I can't say much about the plot. For one, because there's not much to say, but two, because anything I do say, I feel like would spoil too much, and we try to avoid that on this show. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it, and I'll move into some negatives here, right? And understand that I could go on for a while about the negatives of this film, okay? Because, like I said, it is a weird one. You might argue artistic, and you know how those can get sometimes. You get really long shots of nothing happening. You get some really stilted and slow dialogue. This film seems to crawl at a snail's pace, right? And I feel like if you can just picture in your mind here this idea of you have a scene and there's a little bit of talking going on, but there are long pauses between the talking. And then after this conversation, you get another long drawn out scene of just sort of things maybe kind of happening, but you're just getting shots of also observations of this subject, Elena. And we do get some other things where some other characters are looking at things that are happening, but it's all very, very slow paced. Now, I think it's intentionally paced. When stuff is happening, and it will feel like there are long gaps between things happening, but when things are happening, they are happening in such a way to move the plot forward. And honestly, weirdly, sometimes these scenes can seem so drawn out that you almost feel like, did I miss something? Because we seem to be in a different part of the movie now, but there are flashback scenes that happens in. And honestly, that's my biggest complaint, and it's probably going to be the thing that turns off the vast majority of you, right? So that's just the way of it. One other thing I'll say that was kind of distracting, even though I think this was an interesting choice as far as the sound is concerned, is that a lot of this movie, the dialogue has an echo to it. And I do believe that is a very specific intentional choice, and it kind of gives it gives the whole setup this feel that you are in some sort of weird research facility, and it plays into the sort of 80s setting, that it's set in. I actually think it's fine. I kind of liked it, to be honest, but I will say that there's so much of it that at times it feels like maybe they could have pulled back on that, and that not every piece of dialogue needed to have that weird echo to it. But to be honest, those are my only two complaints. And yes, the first one is a big one. This is a slow movie, and it feels like it takes forever for things to happen. However, to move on to the positives, wi- the dialogue in this film, like I said, it is slow. However, there's also not much of it. And when there is dialogue in this film, I feel like it really, and I mean really, moves the plot forward. You learn a lot in a little amount of time, and yet it's not all. The old adage is show don't tell, and the thing is, there is a lot of, when there's dialogue in this movie, it feels like that's what's moving the plot forward. But you also get to see, because through flashbacks or other imagery, you get to see what's happening, what these characters are talking about, or they'll talk about something and then you'll get to see that thing happen. So I feel like every time there is dialogue, we really get to move the plot forward, and we get more and more out of these characters. We get character development every time there's dialogue. And I think it's really good. And of course, look, this is a film that takes place in the 80s. And so we get some really interesting, awesome music. We get some like really weird retro dark synth music. That's my jam. I love it. If you love it, you're going to love the soundtrack to this movie. It's just, it really, really has that 80s vibe to it. And yeah, it's one of those films that, in the cosmic horror sense, I feel like it asks, or it leaves a lot of stuff open-ended. It gives just enough to kind of satisfy that need to know what's happening, but also leaves enough mysterious that you don't feel like you're necessarily getting all the answers. And the other thing too is I really like the look of this film. There is a lot of red in this film. It's really, really strange lighting, and a lot of really specifically framed shots. And there's actually also this, during one of the flashback scenes, it is the one scene that I would argue dives deep into the cosmic horror is a very specific flashback scene. And to me, the visuals in this scene are fantastic. They are fantastically weird. Don't get me wrong. It is very, very strange, but it kind of digs into that sort of horror that I like a lot, right? So, as much as I hate to double back to bad things, I will say that I do think that the ending to this film is kind of a letdown, right? In the sense that there's this extended scene with the main character Elena, where she is traversing through this facility. And for one, I don't feel like we got to see enough of the facility. I would have liked to have seen more of what was going on inside the facility itself. There are some shots in this sequence where she's traversing the facility that don't make a lot of sense. And there are some scenes that, she encounters some other people, I guess, in here that I think we could have seen more of. It's one of those things that maybe they left too much, too vague. And then this is right near the end, right at the end. Like in the last 15 minutes, this gets weirdly slasher-ish. It's very bizarre because it's not like that at all for the entire movie. And then right near the end, there's a bit of it's short, but a bit of a slasher vibe. And then there's just an ending and that comes on suddenly and it's over, right? And so just kind of weird, overall a very, very weird film. Look, the truth is I really, really liked this one. Okay, again, it's the kind of thing that I don't want to see a lot of, but since I haven't seen something like this for a while, I'm glad this one got recommended to me. I was a fan, and I am imagining that I'm going to be in the minority here. If you do not like really, really slow burn, not a ton of questions answered, cosmic, psychedelic horror, with long shots and very slow dialogue, I'm not selling this thing very well, am I? Look, check out some other things online about this one. This one is one of those that if you are into that sort of thing, you probably will like this. If none of those things sound good to you, don't even waste your time, because you are not going to suddenly like the genre by watching this film. All right, now, I will say that I have never seen Mandy. I know Chris told me that he had seen it and he enjoyed it. Watching this does kind of make me want to go see, track down Mandy and watch that. I want to see where this guy went, with his second film, having liked the first one. And even though this is the kind of film I don't want to see a ton of, I actually would like to track down more things like this and, maybe just space them out a bit, because it's the sort of thing that I don't want to watch too often. But anyway, Beyond the Black Rainbow. This was an odd one to pull out. I know, possibly you never even heard of this. Um, I don't know. Give yourself a look at the trailer. I can tell you right now, if you watch the trailer and you are like, this is not something that I think I'm going to like, don't bother, because you're not going to like it. All right? But if it intrigues you, give it a watch. Maybe you will. I actually did. But I have a very, very specific tastes, with this kind of like weird out there horror. So, anyway, that's my take on Beyond the Black Rainbow, a 2010 indie film. I liked it. It's a weird one, but I liked it. And I'd like to hear your thoughts, though. Have you seen this one? Are you into that sort of weird, psychedelic, cosmic horror type thing? If so, drop me a comment below. Let me know what you think of it. And if you think there's any others like this that I should watch, I'd be interested to check them out. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop down there and leave us a like, would you? Helps us out a great deal, and we really appreciate it. And until next time, I'm Shane. I'll see ya.